There's a lot of pro-life legislation being advanced by state lawmakers across America. We'll give you something to cheer for on the CitizenLink report. I'm Stuart Shepard, along with Mona Passignano, our state issues analyst. Hi, Mona.
Hi, Stuart.
First, give us a big picture. How does this year compare to years past as far as the advancement of pro-life legislation?
Well, every year we see quite a few bills being introduced in the legislature. What we're seeing this year is some bills that are really, really good that are getting through. Normally they don't get through the legislatures, but because of the elections back in November, we've had some really favorable legislatures and we're seeing those pass.
And that's all because of the November election.
Absolutely.
People were ready for something different.
That's right.
Well, let's talk about specifics. First of all, Kansas. What's happening there?
Well, Kansas has two bills that have just passed. One is a fetal pain bill. It's very, very similar to Nebraska's bill, which says at 20 weeks, because the preborn baby can feel pain, that you should not be allowed to do an abortion after that unless the mother's health is in danger, her life is in danger. You can take the baby out, at 20 weeks, and if the baby doesn't survive, that's fine. But other than that, no more late-term abortions. They also closed a really big loophole in Kansas for late-term abortions and partial birth abortions, and they said no more of that as well.
And it's important to point out Kansas has kind of been a center for late-term abortions. People from around the country will go there to seek those out.
That's right. Even around the world. One of my friends was in Paris in a taxi cab, and they asked where was he from, and he said, "Well, I'm working in Kansas now," and he goes, "Oh, George Tiller."
Wow.
And I mean, that's a taxi driver in Paris.
What's happening in Texas? That's another state where things are moving.
Texas also has a bill. You would think Texas would already have this, but they haven't. They've never had a legislature that was conducive to getting this passed. But Rick Perry, at the very beginning of the section, that's the governor, he said, we need to get a sonogram bill here passed in Texas. And it's common sense. It's just never happened before. So it's gotten through the House, gotten through the Senate. Governor Perry will sign. Right now we're just trying to get the two versions reconciled into one.
And what would it do?
The woman will need to see an ultrasound before she has an abortion, and she will get an explanation of what she's seeing, which if you've ever seen an ultrasound, sometimes it's really difficult to tell what you're looking at. Yeah. And so she gets the explanation plus the ultrasound. South
Dakota's governor just signed a 3-day waiting period. What's that all about?
Well, that is the longest waiting period in the nation, so that is fabulous news. With a decision of this much magnitude, 24 hours is really not that much time. So for the first time, we have a state that has a 72-hour waiting period. They also ask that the woman needs to meet with the abortion provider before the abortion and he'll discuss the procedure, he or she will discuss the procedure to her, and then she's going to go to a pregnancy resource center and have the opposite view explained to her and fetal development and everything. So she'll get both sides of the argument 72 hours before her abortion.
I remember when I heard about that, I was a little skeptical. I went and read the bill, and it specifies pregnancy resource center. I mean, it's very specific about that.
That's right. I mean, for the first time in our whole nation. So hopefully this will be model legislation for others. Now, of course, the other side's going to take this to court, so we'll have to get through the courts to see what happens.
We'll celebrate what we can for
correct.
today. Most people, I think, would be surprised to learn how low the hurdle is to run an abortion clinic compared to, say, a medical clinic. Virginia is doing something about that. Tell us what's happening there.
Well, for 20 years, Virginia's basically had no abortion regulations, considering the fact that an abortion is a surgical procedure. They had to just meet the regular doctor's office compliance. That was it. So now for the first time, well, in 20 years, Virginia gets to have abortion clinics meet the ambulatory care centers regulations, which means they'll be regulated finally.
Yeah, many of our folks will say, and I hear them thinking in their heads right now, it's still not safe for babies. But at least it does something. I mean, it moves it that direction. And we've seen in states where this has been done or attempted that clinics start to shut down because they cannot meet those regulations.
They cannot.
Which means fewer clinics around the state.
Correct.
And Arizona is getting to the heart of a dark secret of the abortion industry. What's happening there?
Well, there's some legislation. It's now with Jan Brewer with the governor's desk right now, but it prohibits abortion based on race or sex of the baby. And usually you hear about that in China, you know, for the one child policy, with, especially if it's not a boy, they'll need to abort the girls.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is in the United States, people are coming for those same type of abortions from around the world. And so Arizona closed that loophole. Hopefully the governor will sign, and we'll have that in place too.
Now, there are a lot of folks who would say, this is all great, but we'd rather just ban abortion outright. What do you say when people bring that up? What's your response?
At this time in the nation, we're not able to do that. I mean, yeah, we would want that as well. So what we need to do is put as much regulations out there to make this procedure as rare and as safe for the woman as we possibly can, until we can make it illegal.
Now, there's still a lot more in play around the country. What are you watching down the road?
Well, the big one I'm watching right now is New Hampshire. You want to talk about just a miraculous situation. New Hampshire has never had a legislature that was very favorable to us.
Yeah.
Well, after the November elections, we finally have a legislature that can pass some pro-life legislation. Parental notification, parental consent, that's all we were asking for in New Hampshire.
Describe what that is for us now.
It tells a parent will need to be notified and will have to give consent before a minor child can have an abortion.
Yeah.
First time ever. That's gone through the House. We're hopefully it'll get through the Senate. Probably the governor will veto, but we have a veto-proof majority, probably both houses.
And I've always thought those should be called grandparent consent laws when you really think about what's at stake there. It's important to take a moment now and then to stop and appreciate the victories that we're seeing. Describe for us in real life terms, what do those mean as we watch these victories in Kansas and Texas and Oklahoma and elsewhere?
Well, these are real women. These are real women that go to these clinics. As the Gosnell Clinic shows us, it's not always very safe for them.
Yeah.
So this means that abortion will not only be safer for the woman, but like you said, it will be rarer because fewer people will be able to provide that anymore to meet these regulations.
So there will be people, babies, who will be alive in the next year or two because these laws are being passed.
There will be women that will be alive in the next couple of years because of these laws.
All right. Mona, thanks for the work you do. Thanks for your keeping track of all this. It is a lot to keep track of, and I appreciate the fact that you know it so well. And we appreciate you watching and sharing with us each week. We love hearing from you. You may always write to us at mail@citizenlink.com. We appreciate your questions, your comments, your criticism, whatever you'd like to send. We encourage you to pray for our elected officials around the nation, particularly this week at the state level, as they deal with these pro-life laws that they're putting into place around the country that will result in lives being saved. Pray for their wisdom as they consider these and vote on these, and even at the stage where they write these, so that they're clear and something that can stand up to a constitutional test if they're called into court. And remember, stand tall and be heard.